Russian President Vladimir Putin took direct command of a large-scale nuclear readiness exercise on Wednesday, October 22, in a powerful show of strength aimed at both domestic and international audiences. The exercise, conducted across land, sea, and air, marked one of Russia's most comprehensive nuclear force drills in recent years. The event was designed to evaluate the performance and coordination of Russia's strategic forces under the highest levels of command, ensuring that the country's deterrence mechanisms remain fully operational amid escalating global tensions. During the drills, a Yars intercontinental ballistic missile was launched from a Russian cosmodrome, demonstrating the land-based component of the nuclear triad. Meanwhile, a Sineva submarine-launched ballistic missile roared into the sky from beneath the icy waters of the Barents Sea, showcasing Russia's naval strike capability. Strategic bombers also joined the exercise, firing nuclear-capable cruise missiles to complete the air component of the triad. Kremlin officials emphasized that the test was purely defensive in nature, meant to verify command readiness and the reliability of the country's nuclear arsenal. However, military analysts noted that the timing of the exercise, coinciding with heightened tensions between Moscow and Washington, sent a deliberate signal of deterrence. For Putin, the demonstration served both as a reminder of Russia's unmatched nuclear capacity and as a warning to any adversary contemplating military escalation against the Russian Federation. Russia's latest nuclear exercise demonstrated not only its technological sophistication but also the precision coordination between its military branches. The test was a full-spectrum demonstration of the nuclear triad, the three-pronged structure consisting of land-based missiles, submarine-launched weapons, and strategic bombers. Each component was activated under Putin's direct supervision to simulate a large-scale nuclear response scenario. The Yars intercontinental ballistic missile, a key pillar of Russia's land-based deterrent, was launched from a strategic cosmodrome. Capable of carrying multiple warheads and traveling thousands of kilometers, the Yars system symbolizes the core of Moscow's nuclear might. Simultaneously, deep beneath the Arctic waters of the Barents Sea, a Sineva ballistic missile was fired from a submerged submarine. This part of the exercise illustrated Russia's second strike capability, the ability to retaliate even if land-based systems were compromised. High above, Tu-95 and Tu-160 strategic bombers joined the operation, launching long-range cruise missiles from the air. These aircraft, flying at great altitudes, tested their ability to coordinate with ground and naval command systems, ensuring communication remained intact under simulated combat conditions. According to Russian defense officials, all launches successfully hit their designated targets, confirming the reliability of the nuclear chain of command. Analysts believe these drills were carefully timed to project both military confidence and political defiance, reinforcing Moscow's message to Washington and NATO that Russia's deterrence posture remains uncompromised. Beyond the technical demonstration, Russia's nuclear drills carried a clear strategic message directed at the United States and its allies. By personally overseeing the exercise, President Vladimir Putin aimed to reaffirm Russia's readiness to defend itself against any perceived threats and to remind the world of its unmatched nuclear capabilities. The timing of the operation, amid deteriorating East-West relations and stalled arms control talks, was no coincidence. Moscow's leadership has repeatedly warned that the breakdown of nuclear arms agreements, such as the suspension of the New START Treaty, has created a dangerous vacuum in global security. With no active framework to limit the deployment or modernization of nuclear arsenals, both Washington and Moscow are rearming at a pace not seen since the Cold War. The Kremlin's recent statements underscore its frustration with what it perceives as the U.S. refusal to engage in equal and transparent dialogue on strategic stability. Through these drills, Russia is signaling that it will not be intimidated by Western pressure, sanctions, or NATO's growing military presence near its borders. Instead, it is emphasizing that nuclear deterrence remains central to its defense doctrine. Analysts note that this show of force serves as both a deterrent and a diplomatic tactic, an attempt to force the U.S. and its allies back to the negotiating table under Moscow's terms. In essence, the exercise was as much a geopolitical message as it was a military rehearsal. Following the conclusion of the drills, Moscow issued a stern warning to Washington: the global nuclear threat will escalate if the United States refuses to engage in meaningful arms control talks. Russian officials revealed that a new proposal had been presented to the U.S., urging the renewal of dialogue on strategic weapons, transparency, and mutual restraint. However, according to Kremlin sources, Washington has so far shown little interest in reopening negotiations. The Russian Foreign Ministry stressed that continued American reluctance to address nuclear stability could push both nations toward a new arms race. Moscow accused the U.S. of pursuing aggressive defense policies, such as expanding NATO's reach and developing new missile systems near Russian borders. These moves, it said, undermine decades of fragile balance achieved through treaties like START and INF, both of which once limited nuclear competition. President Putin warned that if dialogue collapses, Russia would have no choice but to enhance its own deterrent capabilities, potentially including the deployment of new strategic systems. He emphasized that Moscow's approach remains defensive, but added that Russia would respond decisively to any perceived strategic threat. Analysts view this warning as both a diplomatic maneuver and a real expression of concern. Without renewed agreements, experts fear that miscalculations or technical errors could increase the risk of a catastrophic nuclear confrontation, a scenario both sides claim they want to avoid. The latest nuclear exercises come at a time when relations between Russia and the West are at their lowest point in decades. The ongoing war in Ukraine, Western sanctions, and NATO's continued expansion near Russia's borders have fueled a climate of distrust reminiscent of the Cold War era. Moscow views NATO's growing presence in Eastern Europe as a direct threat to its national security, while Western governments accuse Russia of destabilizing the region through its military actions and rhetoric. The drills, though framed as routine, were widely interpreted as a calculated signal to Western powers that Russia remains ready to defend its interests by all means necessary. Putin's visible presence during the tests served to project strength at home and abroad, reassuring domestic audiences of Russia's military preparedness while warning adversaries not to underestimate its capabilities. In Washington and European capitals, the exercises reignited debates about how to respond to Russia's nuclear posture. Some officials argue for renewed diplomatic engagement to prevent further escalation, while others push for strengthening NATO's deterrence measures, including deploying additional missile defense systems in Europe. Analysts warn that the absence of dialogue and the rising military activity on both sides are deepening the divide between Moscow and the West. With both blocs modernizing their arsenals and rhetoric hardening, the world appears to be slipping into a new era of strategic rivalry, one that could reshape global security for years to come. The implications of Russia's latest nuclear drills stretch far beyond its borders. Military analysts and global security experts warn that such demonstrations could accelerate a renewed arms race between the world's leading nuclear powers, Russia, the United States, and increasingly China. The absence of arms control treaties, combined with advancing missile technologies and new delivery systems, has created an unstable strategic environment where deterrence and miscalculation coexist dangerously. The United States has accused Russia of using its nuclear arsenal as a political tool to intimidate its neighbors and pressure Western governments. Meanwhile, Moscow insists it is acting purely defensively, maintaining that it is the West, through NATO expansion and the deployment of advanced missile systems, that has upset the global balance of power. The mutual distrust between these two powers threatens to unravel decades of diplomatic progress in nuclear restraint. Smaller nations and non-nuclear states are increasingly anxious about the prospect of a new global arms race. The fear is that renewed competition will divert resources away from pressing global issues such as climate change, food insecurity, and economic instability. Moreover, experts warn that the erosion of international nuclear agreements could embolden other countries to pursue nuclear programs of their own, undermining global non-proliferation efforts. Unless dialogue resumes soon, the world risks entering a period of strategic uncertainty where nuclear deterrence replaces diplomacy and peace depends solely on mutual restraint, not cooperation.